This is Iowa Everywhere. And now, it's time for Two Guys Named Chris, powered by Fareway Meat and Grocery. This is Iowa Everywhere. For the fans.
What is going on? It is Labor Day. Are you going into work? Do you have to go to CBS today?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's Cyhawk week, baby. We got to go.
Is that the big on HQ, big Cyhawk just previewing it 5 days?
Yeah, all week long. It's nothing but Cyhawk.
Forgetting about Tom Brady.
Honestly, I don't even know. We've focused so much on the week one matchups in college football, and I have no idea what the matchups are this week other than the game I'm calling and the Cyhawk game and the NFL season starts. That's it.
It's actually really good. Week two is considerably better than what we just experienced in week one. And week one actually turned out to be pretty good. But you've got
week one was great.
Yeah, you've got some pretty good matchups. We got a lot of time to get to those coming up on Thursday as well. But of course, the Cyhawk game will take center stage. I want to give a shout out to our friends at Fareway Meat and Grocery, not only sponsoring us now, but they stepped up to the plate and they said they wanted the Ben Bruns Sunday show, which Ben's the best. Like he analyzes things from such a different perspective, being an offensive lineman. Like he's just watching the trenches, and I love getting his insight because it's so different than anything you can find anywhere else. And Fareway found out about that, so we appreciate Fareway stepping up to the plate and supporting us early here at Iowa. I went to the meat market in Ames on Thursday. And we ate on Friday, and we ate like kings on Friday night. It was crazy. I got all these kebabs. You like kebabs? Do you like food on a stick, Hassel?
I love eating them if they're done right. When I try to do them on the grill, like it's really tough because they're just, it's on a stick. So it's if the meat is all misshapen, it's not, and probably not going to get that from Fareway. But down here, we have misshapen meats on kebabs. And, so you have one part of it that's like 200 degrees and another part of it that's like 80 degrees and raw.
I have a feeling that's going to become like a bit on the show. Is this how terrible the grocery stores are in South Florida?
Yeah, it's honestly, though, they're better down here than they were up in Connecticut in the Northeast. Ooh, man, oh, man.
I want to hear about that sometime because I always hear that ESPN talents will leave the company because they don't want to live there. Is that true?
Yeah, some, yeah. Yeah, they get tired of it. It's not a great area, but I came from Iowa, so
yeah, totally different.
I'm not saying
world.
anything bad about Iowa, but it's very similar weather. So
yeah. Okay. Speaking of ESPN, I want to start today actually with LSU, Florida State. Last night the game was on ABC. So we're doing our deals every Thursday where you and me pick 3 games that we want to focus on, or that not that we focus on, but we're really interested in. And we both had this one. Totally lived up to it. Your old ESPN colleague, Joe Tessitore, had, I think, I thought it was a great call at the end of this LSU Florida State game. Maddie Van Winkle producing today's. This was one of the craziest endings when you compile everything that happened in the fourth quarter. And again, we cover this on Thursday, but I am a closet Florida State fan, full disclosure here. And I was ticked off when he called the timeout. I just had a brain fart and forgot our coach.
Norvell.
Yeah, Norvell. Yeah, I had it right. They've had so many damn coaches in the last 5 years. It's hard to keep track. He calls the timeout at the end. They get the muff punt. We're talking Iowa State, Kansas State 2015 territory. If Florida State somehow loses this game, they block a PAT after letting LSU go the entire length of the field. Let's roll this video real fast and see the end of this. This was just an incredible ending.
Just so stunning because we're all thinking we're going to overtime and this thing's going to continue and LSU has all the momentum and then boom, it's over because of that just doesn't happen
That's a
that often
second
anymore.
block kick of the game for Florida State.
But for a PAT, that never happens. That never at major college football, NFL, you don't see it. But yeah, I thought Tess did a good job. He set it up by saying, okay, he's had one blocked earlier. What's going to happen here? And then boom, blocked.
Do you know Tessitore?
I've met him, but I don't know him that well. No,
He's one of my favorites. Just from afar, like I always
really more in his element doing college football than he was Monday Night Football. I think.
I love watching him do boxing too.
Oh yeah,
that's kind of his bread and butter, right?
He's a pro. Yeah, he can do it all. But I seems like whenever he's on a college football game, it's a great game. That one was amazing, and after the great weekend we had a great game every day. Mm-hmm. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Every single day we had a great college football game.
Yeah, he called the Iowa State Oklahoma State game in 2011 on that Friday night.
I was there. I was covering that game.
Wow. Oh yeah. That would have been back when him and I think Rod Gilmore was on, because I think I watched that game. I had it on DVR. And I know for a fact I didn't go to bed until after College game day had started the next day. Because Rhodes was going to be on game day. And I wanted to stay up for that. And anyways.
Yeah, I've got Iowa.
What was that?
I've got this box here with a bunch of my Iowa stuff.
Oh, cool.
And I think that's the parking pass for that game. Yeah, Oklahoma State, November 18th, 2011. Right there.
That's cool. Yeah, I have one of the rally towels that I picked up on my way out, and my wife framed it for me. So that's my little souvenir.
Yeah, there I am in the background. If you're watching us on Twitter, I got.
Hey, look who you're standing by the way. That's me.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's Matty Van Winkle right there.
How about that? We were both there, Matt.
We got an all-star cast here on Two Guys Named Chris.
I was probably like, who the hell is this little dweeb?
I sent that to Bloom because we were talking about that the other day. And I was like, yeah, Hassel and I were there at the coin toss for overtime.
You also pulled out the video the other day, Matt, or the picture. Hassel, because you're as dumb as me. You probably don't even – would you know if you were sitting at a pro wrestling event next to the lead singer of Slipknot? Would you realize that?
No.
Yeah,
no,
me neither.
Absolutely not. I couldn't tell you what his name is. What is his name?
His name is Corey Taylor.
Okay.
I had no idea. Matt and I we were sitting in the row at Mud in Des Moines like 10 years ago. And Matt was my intern. And I'll tell him now, I spent like $300 per ticket on these things to get us in the front row. And I took him there as like a thank you to get ready for the season. And we got pretty drunk. And we were sitting there like next to this guy and his kid and just had a really good time with them. Really enjoyed it. And after the show, like hundreds of people are like waiting in line to get pictures with this guy. And I'm like, and like a couple of the pro wrestlers came up and like shook his hand and all this stuff. And I had no idea. And I finally asked somebody in line, you can see me right there harassing one of the wrestlers, the guy next to me. Yeah, that's Corey Taylor, the lead singer of Slipknot. That's my claim to fame. Longtime close personal friend, Corey Taylor.
Is Slipknot, is that an Iowa band?
Yeah, they're the one that they like. What do they eat? They eat something on stage.
Like bats?
I don't think they eat anything. They just dress up really crazy. You know,
they eat like beating hearts of rodents.
So what always confused me about this that genre of music was that Slipknot was from Iowa, but Korn is not, correct?
Right. Correct. Yeah, they're not. They're not.
Conventional wisdom would say Korn is from Iowa, Slipknot's somewhere else. But I know they're a big deal in that genre. I just don't. I couldn't tell you one song they sing.
Yeah, longtime close personal friend of the podcast.
How did we end up talking?
I don't know.
Slipknot, Cyhawk week. Well, I guess it's better than discussing the Iowa game.
The Cyhawk week is fascinating to me as we head into this because like nobody thinks they're going to win this game.
Who's they?
Iowa or Iowa State fans. Nobody thinks.
Yeah.
Like nobody. You talk to an Iowa State fan, and I don't care how bad Iowa looked. I'm like, there's just too many demons in that place. Not even Kinnick, just when you start to play Iowa, like I've seen bad Iowa offenses. It's 3rd and 19, and you complete a 26-yard pass at crunch time. Torrey Taylor pinning everything back. I've seen our punters go into Kinnick and just start shanking things, bad turnovers. There's some sort of a demon with Iowa State in the Cyhawk game right now. And then you have Iowa that I've never seen. We saw a stat last night that Spencer Petras's quarterback rating is ungodly low. Like, I didn't even know it was possible to be as poor of a quarterback rating as Spencer Petras has. And you guys are just like, you got 100 yards like late in the 3rd quarter against the net. There it is. His quarterback rating is 1.1.
And for reference, if you're not watching live on Twitter or the replay on YouTube or whatever, the next worst Big Ten quarterback is still above 50 in QBR, and Spencer Petras is 1.1. Oh my God! I do have a trivia question for you, Chris, as it pertains to Iowa State. When was the last time Iowa State started 2-0? Do you remember?
Well, it would have been the last time they won the Cyhawk game.
Incorrect.
Wait a minute. Really?
Mm-hmm.
So there was a year where the Cyhawk game was 3rd?
You're overthinking it. The last time they started 2-0.
Did the game get canceled?
10 years ago. Okay. Steel Jance.
Oh, triple overtime.
No.
No?
This is when they beat Iowa 9-6 in Iowa City.
Jake Knott, interception.
And doesn't that seem like a potential final score this week, 9-6?
Yeah, it does. And I mean, I think if that game is 9-6, Iowa probably wins.
You're right. I totally agree. I mean, I think the lower, I don't know. Jesus.
We'll get into it. We'll start with Iowa because I think it's just flat out more interesting than Iowa State going into this game. But we'll do both, and then some general college football as well as we roll along here on your Labor Day. Hassel, you had a very passionate reaction podcast here on Iowa Everywhere on Saturday. Now that you've had a little time to cool off, have your opinions changed at all?
No.
Okay.
No.
Are they gotten worse?
It's Van Winkle's putting up some of the awful plays on the screen here. I mean, you could, and it's pretty easy for you, Matt. You can just pick any Iowa play on offense, and they're pretty much all going to be bad.
There you go.
There you go. There's a safety.
Yeah. No,
That's like your touchdown sign at Iowa.
Yeah, my opinion has not changed. It blows my mind that they didn't pull Spencer Petras in that game. I don't care how bad Padilla has been in practice. You know what? If he was so bad, what about the next guy? What about Labus? Anybody? Put a running back in there. Run the Wildcat. That would be better than what they're throwing out there with Spencer Petras and how he's playing. I mean, how many times are we going to do this? How many times did we do this last year? And then they stick with him, and he somehow has his worst game against an FCS team. What are we doing? Iowa offense laughing stock nationally. Period.
The thing I noticed when I watched the game back yesterday, and I probably misspoke on our reaction podcast the other day, because one, I do blame for like macro. This is on the Ferences, in my opinion. Like I put this.
Well, how could it not be?
Yeah, I put this all on Kirk and Brian Ferentz, specifically Kirk Ferentz for keeping Brian Ferentz as the offensive coordinator. So this goes on you, Kirk.
Not only that, Chris, but also making him the quarterback coach this offseason.
Correct. So this is on the pharynxes. But when I watched the game back, and again, like the first half, I'm bouncing or I'm trying to get to the press box from my camper and I'm watching it on my phone and like people are talking. So I didn't get to watch it very closely. So my initial reaction probably wasn't that accurate. Here's the deal. Like there were plays and Petras is sailing things 5 yards over the head of guys. Like he was awful on Saturday. So like, I think afterwards I said, this is on the coordinator. No, like I'm more with you now after going back and really charting that game out and watching it closely because there were plays to be had. But what's crazy about Petras is he'll throw it into the ground one play and then he sails it over the guy's head the next. Like there's just no accuracy.
And
At all.
Just a fumbled snap where it looked like he just totally took his eyes off the shotgun snap. He had a couple of passes that you're like, what? How do you make that pass and you can't make the simple ones? You know, I was not throwing the ball downfield. How are you only completing 40 to 50% of your passes? I went back and looked at his numbers since the Penn State game last year when they started 6-0. They're only 5-4 since then. They've only beaten Big Ten West teams and an FCS team. Petras with 1 passing touchdown and 8 interceptions, and he's only completing 50% of his passes. I mean, at what point? And I know Padilla didn't come in and light up the world, right? He did not last season. What he did do was show some elusiveness. He has the ability to run the football, get out of some pressure. He's not, as we both said at the same time in the Reaction podcast, he's not a statue. And reports are that he has been bad in practice. But Allen Iverson said we're not talking about practice, okay? This is the game. It cannot get any worse than Petras because Kirk Ferentz, I think, could sit back and say, you know what, we're sticking with Petras because he doesn't turn the ball over. If he didn't turn the ball over, right? If he was not turning the ball over and they were just basically running a few plays so they can get Torrey Taylor out there and punt the football, play field position game, let your defense score. But Petras is turning the ball over. He is. He's thrown 8 interceptions to 1 touchdown pass over his last 7 games. And quite frankly, he should have thrown at least 1 more pick last game that was dropped. And he also fumbled a snap and couldn't just pick it up and run the play because he bends down to pick up the ball and just falls over. I mean, it's not like he is taking care of the football. He's not.
A couple things. I was talking to Brett Meyer, former Iowa State quarterback. He does analysis for us at Cyclone Fanatic, and he's really good eye for this stuff. And he's gone through it. We've talked about it before, how he was really comfortable early in his career. Chizik comes in, new coordinator, gets uncomfortable, and just the game starts moving a million miles per hour out there. And we were texting on Saturday. He does a lot of, analysis like towards the coming teams for Iowa State for us. Mm-hmm. And he was telling me that's what Petras looks like. That he's just basically like he can see it in him that there's zero comfortability at all with that offense for a guy who's been in it for however long. And
so how is he so damn good in practice all the time?
Well,
which is what Iowa coaches will tell you.
I'll tell you this from an Iowa State standpoint, I hope they stick with him.
Yeah,
right. I'd rather see
your
him
thoughts on the game. How would they change if Petras is the quarterback, which it sounds like he's going to be, compared to if Kirk Ferentz came out and said, you know what, Alex Padilla is going to start this game.
It doesn't matter to me really because that's not how Iowa beats you. Like it really doesn't matter. Like those two are both like where Iowa State's going to lose this game. If that would happen, is because they're going to turn it over. They're going to give the ball to Iowa in advantageous spots, so their offense doesn't really even have to be that good. Or they're going to put it in bad spots, and then Torrey Taylor's going to flip the field. I mean, just like last year's game, Iowa State wasn't that bad in last year's game, but they were so terrible in all the margins where you turn it over 4 times and then right? Like that. That's how Iowa wins. Here's what would terrify me if I'm an Iowa fan, not about this game, but for the rest of the season. And I'm going to keep coming back to this, Hassel. And we nailed this on Thursday's show because I said if the turnover battle is even, you're going to be in a dogfight with South Dakota State. You were. If you guys aren't dominating the turnover battle like you have in recent years, you're winning 5 or 6 games with this offense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have to give Iowa credit because unlike a lot of programs, you can't that cannot sustain this turnover balance, right, that Iowa has over 5 years. Like, it's incredible what they've done. So clearly it's coaching. Clearly they have good players, ball hawks in the secondary, all that. Defense is elite. But my whole deal is if that dips, you're screwed with this offense because it's not adequate. If your offense is in the 70s or 80s, you're fine. You're going 10-2. Your offense is in the 120s.
And as I mentioned, Chris,
when I look at them, like, who's their weapon? Who scares you on Iowa's offense? You don't have
Arlen Bruce is the only guy that did in that game. I mean,
he's a nice player, but he's not like a game breaker. Like, that's not Justin Jefferson on the outside, right?
Well, no. We're talking Iowa's offense, though. I mean,
see, that would be my thing, like a macro view at Iowa. And I'm saying the same thing I've said for 2 years. Like, this is great if you can sustain it, but they, even turnovers, and you damn near lost to the FCS team. Illinois, if you watch them play, like, these teams are getting better in the Big Ten West. Minnesota, like, there's a lot of these teams that are rising. Even Nebraska, as shitty as they are, like, they're still better, like, talent-wise than South Dakota State is. So, like, that they've got to do something. And what are they going to do, though? Like, if you put in Padilla, I get it where, like, an Iowa fan's like, God, we just want to see something different. It's not like they're going to put in Padilla and start running the option or right. Changing things up here.
All yeah, right. What really scares me is that the offensive line looked no better than last year because I really expected that line to be better. And I think everybody did, even though they lost their first-round center in Linderbaum. I think most people thought, boy, that was just kind of an outlier last year, the offensive line with Kirk Ferentz. I mean, it has to be better this season, and it wasn't in that game. Now, I'm sure it has a lot to do with the fact that they were stacking the box and they were all prepared for the run because they knew Spencer Petras wasn't going to be able to throw the ball downfield. But even in drop back passes, there was pressure on Petras right away. The majority of those dropbacks. I mean, it was rare that he had time to just stand there and deliver the football after 3 seconds. And that's the recipe for disaster for Spencer Petras. If he gets rattled, if he has any kind of pressure, he's not going to complete that pass. He's either going to crumble and be sacked, he's going to throw it wide, or he's going to throw an interception like he's thrown 8 of over the last 7 games. And if that line doesn't get better, you're right. It probably doesn't matter that much who the quarterback is because you're not going to be able to run the football if you can't show teams that you can go downfield. You absolutely have to figure out how to get the ball downfield. Get the quarterback some time to throw the ball down. Show that you will at least try to do that. Now, my dad will say, and many other Iowa fans said the same thing, well, they just didn't want to show Iowa State anything.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
What about all of the second half of last season? I mean, have they been holding back since the Penn State game? Listen, the Iowa State game is coming up in 10 months. We're going to just press pause on the season here on the offense.
You guys are
we don't want to put anything else on tape. Because it's not just like it was this game, right? I mean, this goes all the way back to last season and the entire second half of that season. Iowa, since they started 6-0, has been outscored by 52 points, I believe. They've been outscored by over 5 points per game since they started 6-0 and rose to number 2 in the country. And that's because they can't keep up offensively.
Can you believe that less than a year ago, Iowa was the second-ranked team in the country?
No, I can't. And I don't know how they did it those first 6 games. Like what?
The turnovers.
Yeah, but
they flipped the field and
I know the turnovers were a
put you
big
to
part
sleep,
of it, but
like it wasn't like the offense was just lighting people up.
No, but it was a hell of a lot better than it was.
This is true. Well, yeah,
the second half of the season and over the weekend.
You had a running back that almost made an NFL team. You lose Jones and Tracy. You had Keegan Johnson in there.
Yeah.
So, you had better players. You had Linderbaum. Don't have him anymore. Like, that's like when I looked at them, when I watched that game back, I'm like, if you're scheming against Iowa right now, like with the current setup, without Reganey, without Johnson, those guys, right? Laporta's going to be good, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he had 55 receptions or something last season, but I mean, he didn't do much.
I'm saying like he got dinged up, but you're not worried about.
Oh
him.
Yeah, as far as I know, I guess I haven't heard much of an update.
But my whole thing is like if you're scheming against Iowa, like who's the guy who like scares you, keeps you up at night? There's no guy. Like at least last year, you had Keegan Johnson's that guy, but he's not playing right now. So I mean,
is he going to play this week? I don't think we know yet.
And I'm like, from an Iowa State standpoint, I look at this matchup and I'm like, what do you do if you're John Haycock? Because you could either, like, do you blitz a lot? Like, do you need to worry about?
I don't think you do. I don't think you have to. Because what we've seen is you don't need to blitz. You're still going to get pressure on the quarterback. Even if you get within 3 feet of Spencer Petras, he's not going to be able to do anything against you. He will collapse.
He's going to be Joe Montana on Saturday. You just watch. He's going to have an out of body experience.
I don't see it, man. I'll eat crow if he does, and say that, well, you know what, I was wrong. Maybe I guess Iowa was right for sticking with him, but I don't see how you go into this game with Petras as the quarterback. I don't see how you can. And I heard Ferentz after the game say, this is not about Spencer Petras. We had many, many, many more issues than him, and they did. They do have more issues than Petras, but he's the main reason that they're struggling. The main reason why they are inept on offense is because teams know he's not going to do anything. He can't do a damn thing right now. We saw it with the QBR rating. The rating, the QBR rating that ESPN uses is from 1 to 100. That's the rating. And he was 1. I've never seen that before.
At least he's in the top 12.
Yeah, how is he in the top 12 in the Big Ten? Did they not?
There's only 12 guys who have played.
There's okay, I guess. Guess that makes sense.
A lot of Iowa fans were joking, and they're like, all I see is he's in the top 12, baby.
Yeah, top 12 in the Big Ten. I think he's last in the country, too. I mean, I don't think
he has to be. There's no way you could be worse than that. It's not possible. You just laid it out. It's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
The point spread drops to 3.5.
From what, 6.5?
Yeah, 6.5. That's a bigger swing than I thought. Like, again, like if I'm Vegas, I'm looking at Iowa, and I'm like, I knew that they were going to be bad on offense anyways. We'll get to Iowa State real quick.
Yeah, but at the same time, Chris, you didn't think they'd be that bad. You thought they'd be bad, but that was like historically bad. I mean, look at this poor bastard. Did you see him? So this big guy with the tank top on that just has his head in his hand. I was leading the game 5-3, and then they showed him after they got the next safety.
He was even more mad.
7-3. Yes, and that's exactly how I felt. There was no celebrating. Like, this is ridiculous.
I wanted that
to rely on Torrey Taylor pinning them inside the 5 and the defense getting safeties to small ball our way to a 7-3 victory. I mean, this is like bunt single, move them over into scoring position, and a little bloop down the line and get a run. That's how Iowa has to manufacture runs.
The guy that's on the screen right now, and for the people listening on the podcast, you've probably seen it because it got tossed around on Twitter so much. Is that the guy, the Hawkeyes on my belly guy? You remember him?
I do remember.
They did the
I don't think it
music
is.
video.
Because I think this guy that was shown on Saturday is a lot bigger than the Hawkeyes on my belly guy. There's Iowa's touchdown signal to safety. Ah, there he is after the. I mean,
He's
that
just, oh,
it's
you know, this
exactly
guy's,
how I felt.
he's been waiting all year for this game kickoff. Like he's just ready. And then I wanted that game to end 5-3 so badly. Like it just would have been so perfect.
And as we talked about on the reaction podcast, the last game to end 5-3 involved Iowa in 1980. They lost 5-3 to Arizona. Also, there were a lot of people asking, has a team ever finished with 7 points without scoring a touchdown?
I asked that question Saturday night. I've never heard of it. It had to have happened at some point, but that's just crazy.
The stats will only tell us that, oh my, there's the Hawkeye.
That's the Hawkeyes on my belly guy.
No, I don't think that's the same guy, but man, the same body build.
It looks a lot alike.
They just all they can say is it's the first time since at least the year 2000 that a team has scored 7 points without a touchdown.
God bless.
But I don't know that it's ever happened because they didn't keep, the stat database. I don't think is it covered safeties that much 50 years ago.
Let's get to Iowa State. And then coming up in the show, we have 5 reasons why Spencer Petras was not benched on Saturday.
Yes, 5 potential reasons. Like we're trying to come up with reasons. Yeah. Okay.
42-10, Iowa State beats Southeast Missouri State. I was there. It was really boring, which is a good thing. Iowa State hasn't had many boring season openers in the past. They got up 21-0. They kind of fell asleep there in the last 5 minutes or so of the second half to make that look a lot more interesting than it actually was. There were concerns. I can pull out a lot of little nitpicky things that concern me about Iowa State going into the Cyhawk game, and we will. But first of all, Hassel, I'll get your opinion on it since you kind of really haven't given it. What did you think of Iowa State in general, specifically the quarterback, Deckers, who 4 touchdowns in his first start? I thought he was phenomenal. That's like the really exciting part for me. I don't think there's going to be much of a drop-off at all at quarterback, if any, for Iowa State. In fact, he was sold to me as a big-time potential to be much better than Brock Purdy, and he's off to a good start. You got to, that's one game against a bad FCS team, so you don't want to go crazy. Right. But I thought he looked really, really good.
Yeah, it's all relative because of the opponent. But yes, I was really impressed. And that's exactly how I expected him to look in this game, carving up this defense, looking great in the pocket, really connecting with Hutchinson. I was as impressed as I could be in a game like this against such a horrible opponent. And we've talked about it. This is a much different opponent than South Dakota State. Even as bad as Iowa looks, South Dakota State's a lot better than SEMO. I mean, they'd be 20-plus point favorites against SEMO. But that's exactly what you want. You go in there and maybe you don't look perfect. You have some things that you want to clean up, as coaches will say. But quarterback looked good. Getting his feet wet a little bit, didn't have to sweat it out. All good, right?
Yeah, the thing that kind of popped for me, and we talked about this a little bit last week, is that does to me look like more of an offense that would give Iowa a problem.
Yeah.
Compared to what Iowa State's been running with the twin tight ends. I was really impressed with, I think the biggest surprise offensively for me, we knew Xavier Hutchinson was good. He has changed his body. He looks like an NFL type guy now, where in the past few years, even when he's been all Big 12, I've never thought that. I always thought that X was like a good college wide receiver. He looks different now. He was the best player on the field. And then Jalen Knoll in the slot, I thought was just fantastic. So I do think on top of Deckers, you're looking at an Iowa State team right now with 2 top-end wide receivers, and we didn't really know for sure. You knew Hutchinson would be one of the best in the Big 12. I think he's gone up a level. Knoll, I think, is actually has a higher end potential than Hutchinson when his career is all said and done. But what I liked, and this is kind of a catch-22 here, is they didn't run the ball very well against SEMO, which is a massive concern, right? But going into the Cyhawk game in a vacuum, I don't want Iowa State to go in there and try and do smash mouth football. They've tried doing that the last few years, and we know how it ends. I'd rather take some chances and go, like I told you last week, go Purdue on this Iowa defense. And I think the only way Iowa State wins it's why I don't think Iowa State wins a 9-6 game is if they push it downfield and they really get kind of crazy against the Hawks. And I was concerned that Campbell and Manning would be too stubborn to do that because they're run first guys. They, we know how they like to play football. But for that first game, Hassel, they opened it up more than I thought that they would. And that was encouraging to me.
Well, problem is they put a bunch on tape for the Hawkeyes.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Iowa's got more on tape to look at from that offense than Iowa State does. So this is such a huge game for Iowa State and Matt Campbell. I think it's a big game for both teams because, if Iowa loses this game after the way that offense looked at the first game, the noise is going to get really loud, right? People are going to be just beside themselves. But if Iowa State loses this game after the way Iowa's looked, after Matt Campbell's issues getting over that hump, if they can't beat this Iowa team, this Iowa offense, then what are you thinking the rest of the way? I mean, I know the expectations were not super high for this Iowa State team, but I feel like the pressure is now ratcheted up on Iowa State a lot more this week than it was
totally
before this past weekend.
I don't disagree at all. And I think if we quizzed 1,000 Iowa State fans right now, I know you put out a poll on Twitter. I think everybody's voting against their own team.
Yeah. Iowa State fans aren't confident. Iowa fans aren't confident.
I mean, I've had a couple Iowa State fans say what I just said, right? Like, we all can watch the football and say the matchup's better for Iowa State now because Campbell's not going to go and try in there and puff his chest out and be like, oh, our line can go toe-to-toe with your line and our specialist, right? Like, I don't think they're going to do that. So that, encourages me. But Iowa State doesn't turn Iowa over. They just don't in this game. And Iowa's constantly turning Iowa State over. Nobody's confident, Chris. I'm telling you. I bet if we quizzed 1,000 Iowa fans, the majority would say Iowa State would win. If we quizzed 1,000 Iowa State fans, it would go the other way.
I ran a poll for about 20 hours or so on Twitter, had 3,000 votes, and 57% have the Cyclones winning outright. But to your point, maybe more Iowa fans voted for the Cyclones because neither fan base.
If I ran a poll, because I have more Iowa State followers and you have more Iowa followers.
Yeah, I feel like I'm very close to 50-50.
Okay.
I feel like I might have more 50-50 than you. I think you have way more Cyclone than Hawkeye. Definitely. But I think it's interesting though because Iowa's still a 3.5-point favorite, and you have 57% think Iowa State's going to win outright in that poll. I mean, right now 3.5. Really? Iowa favored by 3.5? How? I mean, will they score 4 points?
3-0.
They need 2 safeties to get to 4 points and cover that spread. This might be a 2-0 game.
This is why, do you remember that game? I think it was 3 years ago. The last time it was in Iowa, 4 years ago. Last time it was in Iowa City.
Weird game. Yeah.
Yeah. And our punter just shanked it off of his foot.
Mm-hmm.
in the first quarter, and Iowa got the ball like the 15-yard line and scored the touchdown, and that was pretty much it as far as the scoring goes in that game.
Mhm.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That's the crap that always happens in this game.
Well, either that or you muff a punt at the end of the game.
I'm worried not about Deckers. I think the defense will be fine. I'm worried, like, you have a freshman punter and a freshman kicker going into this thing. Right? Like, that's it could play right into what Iowa does. Now, those guys were fine on Saturday. Like, I'm not Iowa State's specialists were just fine. Like, their punter was actually really, really good. He averaged almost 50 yards per punt. Like, I was really impressed. I've just seen it too many times. Maybe we're sitting here doing this psychological warfare thing on Monday, but I'm telling you, like, from what I've seen, I've been on Iowa and Iowa State message boards. Nobody thinks their team's going to win this football game.
Yeah, but
I don't think Iowa State can run the ball. I think they're going to have a really hard time running the ball against Iowa, which I think is why, again, when I said I don't think Iowa State can win a 9-6 game, they're going to have to push the ball down the field. If Iowa State wins, I actually think they could win by like 10 or more. If they lose, it'll probably be 12-6 or something like that, right?
What do you think it would take to get Petras benched in this game?
Should we do our top 5 now? Like, why wasn't
reasons why Petras wasn't benched week 1?
Because you threw out that Alex Padilla potentially missing a limb.
Yeah, have we checked on him? Are all his limbs intact? Because that's one of the reasons that he could have been kept on the bench. If he doesn't have an arm,
yeah,
can't
that's
put him in, right?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be worse.
Take the snap with one hand, tuck it, run.
What if we are we confirmed that Ferentz he hasn't been blackmailed in any capacity?
That was one of my reasons. There could be blackmail going on. No idea. Nothing makes sense. Like, I've watched thousands of football games throughout my life. I've never seen a quarterback play like that and stay in the game.
Yeah. Well, clearly they're not crazy about what's behind him. I always say this too. Coaches aren't trying to lose, right? Like, there's a lot of pressure on these guys that.
Oh, no, of course not.
Yeah. So, like, there's got to be, like, in their mind some sort of, but we're talking about a very stubborn man when it comes to offense, clearly. And I do think for a real reason, I think Kirk knows, like, we don't have weapons anywhere on offense right now, especially with Keegan Johnson being out. I'm a huge Keegan Johnson fan, by the way. You'll find that out. Totally underutilized.
I hope he's back this week.
Well, that would be a game changer because he actually is a threat. I like Bruce, nice player, but he doesn't, like, at this point in his career, he doesn't put the fear of God in the defensive coordinator.
But at the same time, though, Chris, why does it matter? Like I said last week, if Jerry Rice and Randy Moss are out there and you still have that offensive line and Spencer Petras at quarterback, how are they going to make a big difference?
Probably not.
You still have to have somebody to get him the ball.
Okay, so what are 5 other we got 3 other reasons why Spencer Petras hasn't been benched. What do you have for us, Hassel?
How about this? Padilla belongs to a religion that doesn't allow athletic activity on Saturdays. I don't know what religion that could be, but we've seen it in the past.
It's like BYU can't play on Sundays.
Yeah. What if there's a religion that does not allow athletic activity on Saturday, and those coaches are handcuffed, can't do anything about it? Is that possible?
I guess it certainly is. Petras' quarterback rating is 1 on a scale of 1 to 100. What would Padilla's rating be?
It's got to be better than 1, right?
It has to be better than 1. Like, it literally has to be.
What if Padilla signed an NIL deal that's only valid if he's a backup quarterback? Like if he signed with like a backup generator company.
Oh, yeah.
And it's only valid if he's the backup quarterback. He's like, nope, coach, I'm going to lose out on my cash. That could be a reason why.
It's certainly possible. Yeah.
Do you have any reasons? Potential reasons?
I my thing was funny because I think you had this one too, and it was the one that I had jotted down is that they it had to do with betting on the under. That that we have
Now,
a
these are
point,
just potential
that
reasons.
we
We're
have a
just guessing.
point shaving scandal going on at
We're
Iowa.
just guessing.
Because it's just we know we can win because we won 10 games last year, right?
Mhm.
Like they know that they can win this way, and we need to assure that we hit the under in all these games, and we know we can keep winning. They're not trying to lose, right? I want to make that clear.
Sure.
But Petras is the guy that they know that they could keep hitting that under consistently.
So I mentioned that it could be a religious thing that Padilla doesn't participate athletically on Saturdays. Now we saw it last year. It could be a new thing. And Brian on Facebook says that religion exists. It's called the
Yeah.
Seventh Day Adventist. It's a real thing.
Is that a real thing, or is Brian just
No, I think it's real. I've heard of it. Now you would think if you're a Seventh Day Adventist, you might not play on Sunday, but no, I think it is Saturday. I looked it up. He's right. So maybe that happened in the off season, and we're unaware of that. Look, we're stretching here. We are trying to come up with a legit reason that Padilla did not see the field in that game.
I want to make one quick point
Mm-hmm.
on Brian Ferentz, and there's got to be a reason why he hasn't been a head coach somewhere.
You think he's earned the right to be a head? You think somebody would have given him a job?
No, and that's kind of my point too when we talk about this offense. Like everybody's killing Petras, and I get it. Like he's sailing balls, throwing them into the dirt, like all this stuff. But at Brian Ferentz's age, with his experience level, he's been a coordinator for a good program for however many years. That's a guy who should be a MAC head coach right now with a normal resume, but nobody touches him. At least that we know of. Maybe he's turning jobs down, but I have never heard his job being rumored anywhere.
No, I haven't either, but maybe it's because he's coaching waiting at Iowa. Maybe it's because
that would go over well.
Yeah, I there's a lot of fans that believe that is the plan. I don't know how you could possibly do that at this point. I mean, I think things would have to really change for that to be a real thing and to be sold to the fan base. But Brian Ferentz is 39 years old. He's been with Iowa as a coach for the last decade, and we know about his time with the Patriots for 3 or 4 years as a tight ends coach and maybe like quality control. I don't know. He's got the name Ferentz. I mean, you're probably right. I bet some MAC school would give him a chance. Maybe he has been offered and he's turned it down.
No, I'm saying that I don't think that they will because they know something that Kirk doesn't want to acknowledge.
Like?
That it's just not there.
Then,
like what MAC school
really
wants to bring that? What MAC school wants to bring that offense over and be like, hey, this is what we're going to sell to our family?
None.
Yeah.
But if there's no way that Kirk Ferentz would keep putting Brian Ferentz in this position if he really didn't think it was there, if he really didn't believe in him. There's no way. He wouldn't sabotage his own program and his own legacy.
I mean, I don't think he's sabotaging anything. They went 10-2 last year, but my point is that what he's doing only works there.
Yeah.
Because of the 20-year foundation of his dad. Like that's my point. Like if I'm Ball State and my job comes open and I'm wanting to rebuild my program, that's the last guy I'm calling. We're just going to get under center, right? Like,
yes, right now, yes, absolutely. You can't sell it right now, but I think that there were times where you probably could have sold it
earlier on, absolutely,
and maybe in the future after Petras goes out and looks like Joe Montana this week, and Iowa turns things around. And
just wait, Petras is going to have out of world type of experience against Iowa State on Saturday. Okay, here's the deal. Another final thing for me on the Cyhawk, and then I want to hit on a couple other things.
Mm-hmm.
Is I am pretty concerned about Iowa State stopping the run and specifically the linebackers.
How can you be? How
they
after
look-
after what
they
Iowa
look
did?
slow. No, I'm taking more on a macro, like on the year,
Okay,
not necessarily like this game. But
I think Iowa's yards per carry in that game were the exact same number as Petras's QB rating. I think it was it 2.9?
I think, or 2.7 or something like that.
Maybe before you factor in the sack yardage.
The headline at The Athletic, Scott Docterman, is phenomenal. Iowa tests its togetherness as its offense becomes a national punchline.
And it's true. You probably didn't hear it, but did you hear those guys at halftime? I mean, geez.
Oh, yeah,
Matt
Leinart he needed a couple shots or something. Like, he was falling asleep on the Fox desk. And this is coming from a guy who used to put up 50, 60 points per game.
Well,
couple other college football notes.
Yeah.
Did you see the UCLA crowd?
Well, I did, because I saw Doug Gottlieb was trying to defend that yesterday. And I like Doug. I'm a friend of Doug's, but Doug was saying that it was 100 degrees. Why would you want to go and sit in 100 degrees when you can stay at home or go to the beach? You can watch it on TV if you want, but come on.
There were like less than 10,000 people at this game. But this is my whole point. So the Big 12, we're in this tussle, and I'm kind of like a de facto like Big 12 guy nationally now, apparently. And it's like us versus the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like the exact point that Big 12 fans make when it comes to like the value of a conference and whatnot. Like, nobody cares out there. And it's not they have a huge TV market, and they have their beaches, and they have the Lakers and all this stuff. But the point that we constantly are making is that college football is about the pageantry. It's about the tradition. It's about the tailgating. It's about, like, look at these photos from Los Angeles, and they just don't care unless you're putting out what Pete Carroll was able to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nobody cares about college football in the Pac-12. And that's just the whole point. And
I agree with that. The Big 12 has
games at Iowa. We've sat through all of these before.
Big 12 has passionate fan bases, and I think that's the key to the programs that they're adding in BYU, UCF, Houston, Cincinnati. All four of those programs have really passionate, growing fan bases. They pack their stadiums, and that's something that you can't say about some of these big brands out on the West Coast. It's just different out there. So I think that's great. I think that it's for those programs going to the Big Ten. It's more about just the institutions and, you know, the history of the national brands, because no one's going to argue that you know, getting UCF is like getting UCLA, right? But at the same time, UCF's going to sell out every home game. They have a really passionate, growing fan base, and it's like the biggest university in the country.
Yeah, they have like 70,000 undergrads.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you. It really it's unsettling to see these pictures week in and week out. It's week in and week out, year in and year out from these Pac-12 schools in LA, and that Stanford is the same way.
Stanford's the same. Yeah, absolutely. Like the best fan bases as far as going to games are your Washington State, Oregon State, Arizona,
Washington, Colorado.
Yeah, Washington's and Oregon too. Well, we're not
sure,
but they'll actually show up for these games. Whereas, like, it just, and I whatever. Like, I'm not even killing the LA market, because it is what it is. Like, and I get it, but I'm tired of the constant banter. And Gottlieb's not wrong. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's not wrong. But in saying that, he's proving the point that we've been trying to make.
Right.
It's just different. This is amazing. Quinn Ewers one of the most talked about quarterbacks in history who'd never taken a snap. Texas beats Monroe 52-10. And his car was towed during the game. How does this happen at Texas? Don't they have like a player's lot? Don't they have a facility where these guys can go to? How does Quinn Ewers, who's worth millions of dollars, how does his car get towed in the middle of a game?
And how is this not a story that like came out of Iowa City? Like I could absolutely see Spencer Petras tweeting after the game, "Hey, by the way, it got worse after the game. My car was towed. Permar security got me again."
Maybe that's why Padilla didn't get in. His car was towed. He didn't have a vehicle. He wasn't even on the sideline. He couldn't get to the game because of the Iowa parking police.
Is there anything worse in college than parking enforcement?
Oh,
in and around campuses, whether you're a student or somebody that's just going on campus, whether it's to go to a game or as a media member in Iowa to attend a press conference, it's brutal.
They will ticket anyone.
Those parking people, man, love to get them in a back alley someday.
We've got one game tonight, Clemson, Georgia Tech. This was one of my locks of the week. I told you guys my locks, by the way, everybody, will come out Thursday on the Iowa Everywhere Network.
How are your locks doing this week?
I'm actually 1-0. I had TCU, and then my second lock got voided because of a push.
Okay.
So tonight I've got Clemson at 21.5, and I feel good. I gave you good advice for once because I told you to take it at 21.5. This line will be 24 by kickoff.
Whose idea was it to save this game for last? To have it as a standalone
game should have been tonight.
What's that?
Last night's game should have been tonight. If you wanted to do
and this Clemson game should have just been a game on Saturday. Just like what? Clemson, great. They're intriguing. You know, they could be a playoff contender again this season. They're a top 5 team, but Georgia Tech's terrible.
Yeah, they're one of the worst teams in football. Yeah, they're horrible. Horrible.
They've been bad since Iowa killed them in the Orange Bowl almost 15 years ago.
Love it or leave it, baby.
Like, yeah. Who wants to see this game? Unless it's one of your locks of the week.
Yeah, get some action on it, baby.
Make it interesting.
Get some action on it. I think Clemson is in a mode right now where, they underachieved last year, heard all the noise, won their bowl game. There's no way that quarterback's as bad as he looked a year ago. They kind of rebuild, and I think that they make an example of Georgia Tech tonight. That was my rationale.
I agree. I don't see this being an interesting game at all.
So I'm actually on Wednesday getting on a flight to North Carolina. I'm taking the whole family. I'm officiating my cousin's wedding in the Outer Banks. Of course, she picks the Cyhawk weekend for the wedding.
Wait, you're going to be in North Carolina for the Cyhawk game?
Yeah, I'm missing the Cyhawk game.
You're missing the – wait. When is the wedding?
It's on Friday. I'll be able to watch the game,
okay,
but I won't be there. The last time I was – you'll appreciate this. The last time I was in Iowa City, I got a Milwaukee's best to the back of my head.
What?
Yeah. Some guy did not like me.
Oh, my God.
He called me a homophobic slur as well. That's a really bad deal, though, when you walk up to a press box and you smell like beer.
Oh, God.
Because everybody, all the scribes are in the corner. Oh, yeah, Williams has been out tailgating and drinking.
Just boozing all morning.
Now he's coming in here. So, no, I won't be there, but I will be. I'm actually looking forward to it. I'm watching the game. We got an Airbnb, like a beach house on the Outer Banks, and that's how I'm watching the game. So that'll be cool.
Believe it or not, I'm also going to be watching the game from North Carolina.
Really? Where are you at? That's what I was going to ask.
But I'll be watching it as I'm calling my game. I'm at Charlotte. Charlotte is hosting Maryland. That's my game this week on Stadium. And boy, this could be a blowout. Maryland's a 4-touchdown favorite. Charlotte is already 0-2. I don't know. I haven't checked, but I'm not sure there's any other team out there 0-2 already. They got blown out both games, lost both games by 3 scores. And Taulia Tagovailoa is probably going to have a heyday. But I think my game's at 3:30 Eastern, and Iowa State, doesn't that start at 4 Eastern?
4 Eastern. Yeah.
Man. So I'm going to have that up on my laptop during the game. This happened, I swear, every single year. My game is the exact same time as the Cyhawk game, because our games tend to be, I usually have a game 3:30 Eastern, and Iowa State usually goes to Fox at 4 Eastern time. So I won't be able to really dig in during the game. I'll have to just check in and out because got to do my job. But I honestly, I'm not expecting Iowa to win this game. I know we'll talk a lot more about this on Thursday, but I don't have any faith unless a quarterback change is made.
I have faith, but I'm not confident. Put it that way. Thursday, I'll have like a beach in the background. I'll try and do something really nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I gotta. Have you ever done a wedding? Are you ordained?
What do you mean done a wedding?
Do you ever officiated a wedding before?
Why would I have, like, as an ordained minister?
Yeah.
No. Why? No, of course not. Have you?
Oh yeah, this will be like my seventh or eighth.
That's a huge mistake. Like, don't. This is why I didn't do it. Don't. First of all, don't become an ordained minister. Second of all, if you do, don't tell anyone else, because hey, we'll use you. Yeah, why don't you come? Hey, come on out to Alabama. We got a wedding this weekend. Why don't you?
And then they don't want to pay you either.
What?
So like family, I'll do it now, and like really close friends. But that's
Man,
you're right.
Huge
like
mistake.
It was a considerable one, but it's always worth it just to make people call you Reverend.
Reverend Williams?
Yeah. And I forced them to do it while I'm there, and I am officially
there.
I'm a minister. You're calling me Reverend. If I'm going to be there, if I'm going to do
Reverend Williams, would you
Reverend.
bless us today?
Here's the problem. So my cousin is marrying a guy whose brother is a real pastor. So I feel like I'm going to be being judged the whole time because I'm not a real reverend. Like I play one. Right. So like now, like it's like if you're, I don't know. Like I feel like they're just going to be picking me apart with everything that I do.
Sounds like they don't need you because they can just use the pastor.
Well, the pastor is also the best man. So they wanted him to be able to do best man things. So
the best man just stands there anyway. You can just stand there and officiate.
Well,
you're in the same spot.
I'm the rep. So
all right. So you're going to be in the Outer Banks. I'm going to be in Charlotte.
Hey, just jump on get your CBS private jet, fly to the Outer Banks, bring Kristen, and you can hang out with us because we're coming back on Monday. We're going to stay for a couple days after the wedding.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
No,
you're always welcome.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the invite, but I'll be missing the wedding, unfortunately. Send us some pictures.
Thanks to Maddie Van Winkle
Williams.
If you're an Iowa fan watching, I'm the Rev all week. All right, bring it on. Maddie Van Winkle, thank you for producing. As always, adds a lot to the show. We're doing really well. A lot of people are following along. I was blown away by Iowa Everywhere's numbers in week 1. But if you guys could please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you watch and listen to these things, it does help us out. Shout out to our friends at Fareway, as always. When you come back, we'll have to get you up and take you to a basketball game, and we can do the whole odds thing at some point. You got to see this meat market. All it is meat. It's a giant meat market in Ames, and it's just every kind of meat you could ever think of.
Is it all just like? Is it like a freezer? It's hanging on hooks. Butchers in there just cutting it all up.
It's not, but it's a smaller building, and you walk in, and there's an entire, like a meat counter when you go to a regular supermarket. The entire side of the wall is just a giant butcher den. I mean, they got every seafood, everything you can want. It's crazy, but I'll have to take you to it, get you up to Ames.
That sounds great. I don't know when I'll be back again, but probably sometime in the winter. after football season and around Christmas. But all
All
right, well,
right.
safe travels to. So are you going to be doing Thursday's show from
Yeah.
Carolina?
I'll be in North Carolina doing Thursday.
All right, but the show goes on.
The show will go on. You don't travel in the middle of Cyhawk week and think that you're going to get the week off. I learned I would not even attempt to do that. So yeah, we'll just be we'll be doing it from I might have a mimosa if that's okay. But we'll
I didn't peg you as a mimosa guy.
Well, I mean at 8:30 in the morning. I don't know what else.
You don't start popping Bush lattes at 8:30 in the morning?
Only on game day.
Okay.
All right. He's Chris Hassel. I'm Chris Williams. Matt Van Winkle producing. Have a fun Cyhawk week. Don't be too mean to one another. Or you know what? Screw it. Do whatever you want.